We're happy to welcome back to our show Undersheriff, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, Chris Kuhl. Hey, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Good, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good. Doing well.
Yeah, this weather, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because your office, you're the guy in charge of our community's emergency preparedness.
Yes.
And with the spate of severe weather that the country's experienced, we've been very close. Ohio, Indiana, earlier this week got tornadoes. We haven't had any, but it's still tornado season, isn't it?
It is close brush, and we just want to remind people, like we do every year, be prepared, have a couple days of supplies on hand, whether it be medicine or water. If you have the ability, have like a go bag of, maybe clothes that wouldn't be your first go-to clothes anymore, but you can pack in a bag, and that way if you need to get out of your house very quickly. And the obvious thing is remember to heed the warnings, know the difference between a watch and a warning, know how your community warns, whether it be outdoor weather warning sirens or whether it be some kind of technological solution. We have both in this county through the use of Code Red, which is kind of a mass calling text messaging format that you can subscribe to, and then of course the outdoor weather warning sirens, but those don't penetrate very far with buildings being very efficient these days and lots of insulation. So just pay attention to the news broadcast and heed those warnings. They don't break into programming just because. It's usually to tell you something very important, and then of course know where to seek shelter within your house or your business. If you have a place of business, know what that severe weather plan is while you're there doing work.
I think people are taking it more seriously than maybe 15 or 20 years ago.
Probably, it seems like over the last few years, especially out in the plains and those areas out there, they've been hit by some very drastic systems that have caused a lot of devastation and a lot of loss of life.
In this area, we're part of Tornado Alley, I guess, right?
We are. I think maybe we're sheltered a little bit by the Great Lakes, but we do get them, and we know that as of a few years ago, we had a few that went north and south of us and did a lot of damage. Thankfully, no loss of life, but it's only a matter of time before we have one come through. We just need to be prepared and be able to act based on that plan.
Did the tornado sirens now have complete coverage? I know there were some dead spots that have been improved.
Yeah, we have a lot of them around the county. I think just off the top of my head around 30 or 40. Some local communities add their own. We don't have complete coverage. We never will, just because the sound doesn't travel in those very far. Typically they try to place those like around very population dense areas, a lot of lake communities, or where you have, especially in the city here, things like that, they have a lot of sirens. So you'll never get complete coverage, especially for the outliers in the really rural areas, but you try to cover as much as we can.
All right, you've been over the last 2 or 3 years working on improving, upgrading the communication system, and that's the system that is used to communicate among first responders, right?
That's correct, yeah. The county administrator and the board of commissioners signed a contract with Motorola in 2016, and they handed it to me after Motorola designed the system and asked me to kind of manage the project and make it a reality. We've been working on this since about 2016, and the system went live for the law enforcement aspect of it last Wednesday. We're working through some kind of minor kinks and things like that, but it includes some brand new tower sites. It includes some new equipment down in the 911 center, and then of course, most importantly is it includes new devices or portable radios and vehicle-based radios for all law enforcement and fire. So, one of the goals that we had is moving to a more advanced system. It's a digital system. It's managed by a division of the state of Michigan called the Michigan Public Safety Communication System. So in the past, we'd kind of had our own radio system. We had to maintain that. We had to make a lot of decisions. Now we have actual radio engineers, people who are learned in this communication aspect, kind of managing the system for us. We added infrastructure and kind of built out the system based on our needs. But on our old system, we had areas of the county that you couldn't communicate very well on your portable or your handheld radio. We can cover most of that now out on the street. Buildings will always present a challenge for us just because, buildings made of brick and steel and things like that. You're always going to have trouble with communications. You have it with your cell phone. Cell phone companies can't cover everywhere, so that's a billion-dollar industry. There's no way that we're going to, but it improves communications greatly for what we call on-street coverage, the officer or the firefighter out there on the street communicating on their portable radio, and there's a whole bunch of safety features built into these radios and lots of different methods that you're able to communicate. So if the officers and the firefighters know their devices and they've went to the training like they're supposed to and they're comfortable with them, lots of different ways they can use that to communicate either with other first responders in the area or with the dispatch center. And then of course things like safety alarms and things like that built into the radio. So if the officer or firefighter gets into trouble, they can trigger those. And it's just a very advanced system. I gave the analogy of it's like going from a flip phone to an iPhone, and that's kind of where we're at. Everything is digitized and it's all on a system that the state of Michigan owns and maintains. So it really is an advancement for us for years to come. Most importantly, I think it'll put us in a good position for many, many decades versus our old system was kind of on its waning last leg, if you will, and we either had to put a lot of money into that or go with the new system, which is what the Board of Commissioners elected to do. So yeah, I'm happy that this has come to fruition. It's been a very long road. I've learned a lot about what they call P25 or public safety threshold communications and the building of these systems. I've worked hand in hand with a lot of people at the state and Motorola, and they've been great to work with. And now the system is finally live, and we got some tweaks down the road to make and some fine tuning, but all in all, it works very well.
How about knowing where the call is coming from or where the officer is responding from? Is there location enabled information with the communication system, GPS? And
So all of the county's police vehicles, regardless of what agency, are GPS located, but not through this communication system. But that is a future technology that this system does have the ability to add if we choose to do that. So that is a plus, but there would be some logistical things to work out with that. But we do have GPS locations in the cars, just not through this system.
But the biggest advantage is just being accurate and having the coverage, the clarity that's improved, I understand.
Yep, the clarity, the conciseness, and a wider coverage area where we didn't have coverage before, yeah. So, and it gives us a good stepping stone to move forward in the future.
What has been the response among the deputies and the other officers and first responders that have been using it?
It's been pretty good. They really like the clarity of it, and like I said earlier, you know, with the old system that we'd used for decades and decades, we kind of knew where the trouble spots were, and there'll be new trouble spots with this system, but we just don't know where they are yet. So we're kind of in the process of finding all that out. So we're getting good information back from the field, though.
What does it look like? Is it still like that two-way handset that they will have on their shoulder?
Yeah, it looks very similar to our old devices. Our old devices were by Motorola as well. This is all manufactured by Motorola. So physically looking at them, they don't look a lot different, other than they do have display screens, a lot of LCD displays on them now, navigation buttons, where our old radios were just kind of knobs and switches. So they are more advanced. It's just the technology inside the shell that kind of makes everything hum. That's a lot more advanced and frankly a lot quicker and a lot clearer.
Well, I know it's been I think your project for 2 or 3 years that you've been working, I think, day and night on. I know you're very excited it's finally rolled out.
Yeah, we're very happy. We're very happy that kind of the project delivered what they said it would, and now we'll kind of make these fine-tuning adjustments on our way forward. And I hope this will give a good tool for all the police, firefighters, and EMS responders out there to kind of work from.
Yeah, and you can now probably communicate from your own home for the first time.
I absolutely can if I choose to.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Under Sheriff of Jackson County, Chris Kuhl.